حياكم الله معنا مرة أخرى حضورنا الكريم في منتدى الاقتصاد المعرفي الثالث. هذا المنتدى اللي استمر طوال الساعتين، وصلنا معكم الآن إلى الساعة الأخيرة، وراح نبتدي معكم الآن حضورنا الكريم الجلسة الحوارية الثانية بعنوان مستقبل الفرص الوظيفية ومهارات ضمن الأسواق المعرفية. Now is the time to start our second session for today, which about the future of jobs in knowledge markets. ومحتوى هذه الجلسة الحوارية حضورنا الكريم راح نتكلم عن تطوير بيئة ونظم الأعمال وطبيعة الوظائف، بالإضافة إلى المهارات الوظيفية المطلوبة ضمن الأسواق المعرفية، وسياسات أسواق العمل الجديدة، ومستقبل الوظائف النمطية وأيضا التقليدية. ونرحب بضيوف هذه الجلسة الحوارية، كل من المحاور المدير العام المركز الإقليمي لتطوير البرمجيات التعليمية الدكتور نادر معرفي، وأيضا مع الضيف الأول our first guest he will be high education expert in EY دكتور ليم لاي تشينغ, and the second guest he will be from TVET specialist from ILO مستر كيشور كومار سينغ. وأيضا بالإضافة إلى الضيف الثالث هو كبير الاقتصاديين دول مجلس التعاون الخليجي للبنك الدولي الدكتور اسماعيل رضوان. والآن فليتفضل الدكتور نادر معرفي بفتح هذه الجلسة الحوارية. دكتور نادر لك الكلمة.
صباحكم الله بالخير وأهلا وسهلا فيكم، ونرحب بكم في منتدى الاقتصاد المعرفي الثالث الأسواق المعرفية. وفي الجلسة الثانية بالأخص جلسة مستقبل الفرص الوظيفية والمهارات ضمن الأسواق المعرفية. قبل ما أبدي وأعرف الأخوة المتحدثين والمحاورين، أحب أن أبدي في ملخص عن الأدبيات الاقتصادية لعناصر الإنتاج اللي هي مكوناتها عبارة عن عنصر الأرض أو الموارد الطبيعية، وعنصر العمل، ورأس المال البشري، ورأس المال المادي أيضا، والمنظم أو صاحب المشروع. طبعا في أهمية كبيرة لعنصر المعرفة والابتكار في العمل. هذا يعتبر عنصر جديد مضاف إلى العناصر الأربعة السابقة، وهي اللي تشكل القيمة الأكبر في صناعة المنتجات. وما يجعل المنتج مرتفع السعر هو القيمة المعرفية والخبرة والذكاء الموجود في المنتج والمستخدم في تصنيعها. يعتبر مفهوم المعرفة في نطاقه الواسع مفهوما ليس جديدا، لأن الجديد اليوم هو حجم تأثيرها على الحياة الاقتصادية والاجتماعية وعلى نمو حياة الإنسان عموما. فبعد ما تحولت الثورة الزراعية والثورة الصناعية ومن ثم الثورة النفطية، أصبح توجه العالم أجمع إلى التحول نحو اقتصاديات المعرفة وأن يتبناها. وفي الوقت التي يتصارع فيها العالم كله على أسعار النفط وامتلاكه بسبب تنامي اقتصاديات النفط وقوة الطاقة في العالم، غفلت بعض دول العالم عن أهمية الاستثمار في الناس، وفي الأخص بمنطقة الشرق الأوسط. عندنا بات الاهتمام بتنامي الثروة النفطية والسياحية والخدمية، وهي اللي غالبة على اهتمام القوى البشرية والطاقة الكامنة في الإنسان في المنطقة. فأصبح لزاما أن نخلق مجالات أوسع وأشمل تدر ربح لا يقارن بالاقتصاديات النفطية. تعد اقتصاديات المعرفة من أنواع قطاعات الاقتصاد الحديثة، والتي تعتمد اعتمادا كلي على المهارات الشخصية والتكنولوجية التي تعلمها الإنسان في التعاملات المالية أو غير المالية ضمن قطاع الاقتصاد. وأيضا اقتصاديات المعرفة استخدمت الذكاء الطبيعي في معرفة طبيعة المنتجات. واقتصاديات المعرفة هذه اللي تستخدم الذكاء الطبيعي هي طبعا المهارات والخبرات اللي يكتسبها الإنسان في المنتجات وفي أثناء العمل وأثناء التدريب والدورات الطبيعية أو الدورات التدريبية. في هناك مفهوم للرأس المال البشري كما ذكرنا سابقا، يتبع على العناصر الأربع، وأصبح رأس المال البشري هو الأهم من العوامل التنمية حاليا، وذلك من خلال التعليم الجيد واللي ممكن ينشئ العامل الماهر والفني الماهر اللي يكون عنده قدرة على الإبداع والتطوير. طبعا في المنتدى الاقتصادي العالمي في حطوا أو خصصوا أفضل المهارات الواجب أن يتبعها العامل أو الموظف ويتعلمها بحلول 2025. هي حوالي 5 مهارات ضرورية، هي مهارة التحليل والتفكير والابتكار والتعلم النشط واستخدام التعليم، إضافة إلى حل المشكلات المعقدة والتفكير النقدي والتحليل والإبداع والأصالة والمبادرة. قبل ما أيضا أبدأ في هذه الجلسة أحب أن أقول أن معنا في هذه الجلسة 3 محاورين من كبراء الخبرات في مجالات الفرص الوظيفية والمهارات والأسواق المعرفية. معنا نرحب بالدكتور إسماعيل رضوان، كبير الاقتصاديين من البنك الدولي، كبير الاقتصاديين لدول مجلس التعاون الخليجي. دكتور رضوان عمل في المنطقة وتزيد خبرته مدة تقريبا 29 عاما في مجال تطوير القطاع الخاص وقضايا إصلاح القطاع العام في أوروبا والشرق الأوسط وشمال إفريقيا وإفريقيا وآسيا. كما عمل الدكتور إسماعيل على التنمية الاقتصادية واستراتيجيات التجارة والنمو وتطوير القطاع الخاص والابتكار والمناطق الاقتصادية الخاصة، فضلا عن الحوكمة قبل انضمامه إلى مجموعة البنك الدولي. هو خبير اقتصادي رئيسي كان في لندن في PwC، وعمل في أنحاء مختلفة من العالم. حاصل على درجة الماجستير في الإدارة الحكومية من جامعة بنسلفانيا. عاش وعمل في أكثر من 50 دولة ما شاء الله. طبعا هذه مختصر السيرة الذاتية للدكتور إسماعيل. أما دكتور ليم لاي تشينغ، an education ministry advisor and former executive director of Singapore Management University. Lim Ching has extensive experience, 30-year plus Singapore education system, and has played a key role in cooperative communication and curriculum and policy development at the Education Ministry headquarters. She has been involved in several nationwide reviews on education and produced a commemorative publication for Ministry of Education entitled Pathway One Mission, 50 Years of Singapore Education. She has a lot of publications, and also she was spearheaded an academy for professional continuing education for working adults at the Singapore Public Universities. She has a long CV, but mainly her CV is she's majored and also experienced in education and management of education. Our third speaker, Mr. Kishore Kumar Singh, is a senior technical specialist skills. He joined ILO in 2014 as a senior TE specialist equity and access. ILO Bangladesh, following 18 years of work experience in several other organizations, including UNDP, Air International, and GIZ, before joining ILO's regional office for the Arab states in January 2021 as a senior regional skill and mobility specialist. He served as a chief technical advisor to lead EU and Canada supported skills and employability programs. Also, his CV, as I said, is a CV, but he has experience in human skills and technical skills. Well, before starting, I'd like to throw 3 main topics. which the first topic is developing the business and systems, the nature of jobs. This will be actually the topic Dr. Radwan will be talking about, and Dr. Lim will be talking about new labor policies and the future of traditional and non-traditional jobs. Mr. Komar will be talking about required job skills within knowledge market. So I will start with Dr. Lim. You may start, Dr. Lim.
Hi, everyone. Thank you for the privilege of speaking here. I'm based in Singapore, so I know the Singapore system very well. And I'm very glad that Dr. Saad put us up very high together with Korea and Switzerland as being very digital in terms of our economy. So when we talk about the knowledge market, we really are talking about the infusion of technology, the availability of data, as well as innovation, scientific leadership, and research. So all these must be there before we can even have knowledge markets, or a knowledge economy. I want to talk about how Singapore started, or why we are up there. It is not by chance, because for us to have a knowledge economy, you need to have the workforce that is able to deal with data technology. And we started that a long time ago by making sure that technology is all around our students, our professional workers, our workforce, as well as government, whole of government approaches to make business very accessible, easy, to make interactions and transactions across organizations very easy, and to have this global interconnectivity so that we can learn from the very best. So about 6 years ago, we then seriously started saying we need to train our workforce to be even better because competition is just so stiff. And unless you're innovative and your workforce can deal with the technology that now comes in such an accelerated manner, there is no way the Singapore economy can still remain top of our game. So we started this whole movement called Skills Future. So under Skills Future, a lot of the tertiary institutions and companies, as well as professionals, are told to think about their technical skills. Are you up there? Are you keeping up with what is happening in the market? Industries were asked to look into what their own industry sector will look like in the next 10 years. What is missing? What are the skills and the competencies that we need in our people? So the Skills Future series actually included a lot of offerings and a lot of public awareness on things like analytics, digital economy, tech-enabled services, entrepreneurship, cybersecurity, advanced manufacturing, urban solutions, etc. Right? So these are all new terms, and people were asked to, try and sign up for training to make sure that they won't lose their jobs, and to incentivize them. We were all given credits from the time we're 25 years old till the time we die. We have credits given by the government so that we can sign up for training in these areas. And when you think about this, unless your job is threatened, you wouldn't bother with training. But we're seeing that in the banking sector, a lot of high-performing rich bankers were losing their jobs because technology has made whatever services they're providing not as relevant anymore, right? So we started to hear about fintech. We started to hear about legal tech because even with lawyers, they have to rethink how they do their business because people may be able to just go online and submit estate duties. They may go online and ask for robo-advisors. And a robotic system can actually go through cases to bring up some of the, arguments for and against a case and an indictment. So they really have to keep up with technology to make sure that they won't go obsolete. We hear of things like health tech, the use of AI-assisted technology in healthcare, and also all the related insurance that comes with it. We hear of insurtech, we hear of digital marketing, because in normal retail, you would be in a shop buying something, but this is not how we buy things anymore. Yeah, we go online, we go on platforms, and things get delivered to your doorstep. You can return it if you don't like it. So retail people, F&B people will also had to learn how to use technology. So all in all, companies were also given incentive, because our Infocom and Media Authority, under the government's auspices, were giving out grants to companies to say, we need you to do digital transformation. If you have an idea, tell us, and we'll support you up to 80% of what you need in terms of the fees for you to go and try out a new innovation that will help you make your business more efficient, more effective. And Singapore is a small country. Like Kuwait, we can't rely always on labor. We keep having to import labor. And so if more technology, more robots can be used, even in kitchens cooking, or in the restaurants, serving or bringing your plates, or in hotels, bringing towels to individual rooms, then we don't need so many people who do these lower level jobs. Yeah. So all around, I think the Singapore economy is very conscious of the use of technology and innovation. And all our schools have also been told, even from kindergartens, to teach our children how to do coding, how to play with Bbots, how to then start working with apps and games and programs to learn better. And now we heard of the ChatGPT, yes, and the chaos that it can cause in a school, because it can do so many more things than what we can possibly imagine a child can do. So you've got to be one up against the technology. And that is what we're so conscious of all the time, that, okay, some of our jobs may be lost, but if you're able then to be the master of the machines, and you're able to chart the strategy for your business, and you're able to then deal with the softer side of what we need, the care economy, sustainability, the green economy, this is where your value will be. Yeah. So I'm just going to stop here, because I don't want to take up too much time on just Singapore. Let me hear what some of the questions may be and what our panelists might be speaking about, and then I will add on. Thank you very much.
شكرا دكتور ليم. طبعا قبل ما أبدي أيضا مع السيد كومار، يعني في هناك إحصائية إن بحلول 2025 تشير الإحصائية أن 50% من العمالة حول العالم بحاجة إلى إعادة بناء مهاراتهم بما يتوائم مع متطلبات الوظائف والتطورات التي طرأت عليها، وخاصة عند إقحام التكنولوجيا والذكاء الاصطناعي في الأعمال. وكذلك يتوقع أن 40% من العاملين حول العالم حاليا عليهم تغيير وتطوير مهاراتهم في الوظائف التي يعملون بها لتجنب تسريحهم من العمل في حال بقاء مهاراتهم الحالية كما هي دون تغيير بحلول 2025. أيضا قبل ذلك خلينا نقول كيف تنمو المهارات. المهارات في هناك مهارات أكاديمية وهناك مهارات شخصية. المهارات الأكاديمية هي المهارات اللي طبعا يتلقنها الطالب أو الفرد من الجامعة من المدرسة، وهي ما تعرف بالمهارات الصعبة نظرا للتوسع الكبير في تفاصيل التخصص. أما مهارات الشخصية هي مهارات يمتلكها كل شخص بجانب دراسته ويتطور تدريجيا بناء على التخصص بدراسته، وأيضا يكتسبها من التطوع ومن التدريب العملي والتعلم الذاتي. الآن طبعا نبي أو نريد من السيد كومار أن يتحدث عن المهارات الوظيفية المطلوبة ضمن الأسواق المعرفية. فليتفضل.
Thank you. Let me begin by saying that with the emergence of knowledge economy, there has been growing agreement on importance of market-relevant skills with workplace competencies as engine of growth. From a labor market perspective, there has been increasing recognition of specific competencies such as ability to use information and communication technologies to solve problems, to work in teams, to supervise and lead, and to undertake continuous learning. Many of you have spoken about it. The importance of human capital for knowledge economy has drawn attention to most policymakers, with emphasis on connecting educational outcomes with the need for knowledge market to support the economies. What it needs actually is the private sector, deeper private sector engagement in national governance, skills delivery, including promoting apprenticeship, skills recognition, and saving skills policies and quality assurance system. Recognition of knowledge and innovation as driver of growth, economic diversification, and youth employment is a step in the right direction in most of the Gulf countries now. This needs a planned strategic investment in intangible assets with a knowledge character like R&D, design, ICT, and a skills and lifelong learning system. Economic diversification policy also intends to create private sector jobs for youth, which is very essential for creating more and more jobs and reduce the youth unemployment. On the other hand, it is not only technology which is changing the world of work or future of work. There are other global drivers of change or mega trends which are determining the demand and the changing nature of existing occupation, such as, climate change, as one of our colleagues said, globalization, including trade and migration, and demography. These are also global trends which are shaping the skill demands and the nature of occupations. This needs an informed, coordinated, and capacitated skills ecosystem with active engagement of labor market institutions with up-to-date labor market labor market information. The exact nature of change in future of work will be determined by social, political, and business choices which we make, the ecosystem which we are talking about, the policy we formulate, and the kind of institutional structure and public investment we make. ILO's Global Future of Work report suggests 3 pillars of action to save the changing world of work: investing in people's capabilities, investing in institutions of work, and investing in decent and sustainable work. Coming to competencies which are required, which are distinctive in the knowledge economy, how should education and training system respond to an ongoing changes in the knowledge economy that demand higher and more diversified skills? This is a difficult question to answer because there is no clear agreement on the definition and measurement of these skills and how such skills contribute to knowledge economy. One way to approach this issue is to examine the different evidence available on general competency trends and how these can be related to knowledge economy. Most agree that basic reading, writing, and arithmetic skills are no longer enough for workplace performance, but they are a starting point. That's the foundational skills which needs to be there. Further findings stress that the fact that there are new or changing competencies which are highly valued in the labor market. In addition to basic foundation or core skills based on formal education and literacy, other non-academic skills are being widely included in the literature. If we look at the survey, it says that applicants' attitude, applicants' communication skills, previous employers' references, previous work experience, industry-based credentials. These are also very important factor for hiring. For hiring the new people. In hiring decisions, employers say they give as much attention to workplace competencies as they do to technical skills. However, most of the available surveys refer to hiring at a particular level, requiring a given level of education as a first prerequisite. From this perspective, the focus on interpersonal and workplace competencies should be seen as supplementary to the established educational requirements. In the United States, a qualitative survey on firms' recruitment strategies for entry-level jobs found that not only mathematical and English skills are required for today's entry-level jobs. The literature review also reveals that there are other competencies which are required, like interpersonal skills, teamwork, leadership, motivation, and attitude, the ability to learn, problem-solving skills, effective communication, technological and ICT skills, etc. In some countries, workplace competencies have been defined within the frameworks in which these competencies are distinguished from core or foundational skills. Examples include United States SCANS competencies, the Australian key competencies, and the Conference Board of Canada's employability skills profile, or United Kingdom's National Curriculum for Vocational Qualifications. So now, even for the softer skills, there are qualification framework which are being developed, the competency units are being defined, this has become this has been integrated as a part of the as a part of the curriculum itself. The workplace competencies are viewed as complementary and participating knowledge economy and new production processes. The analysis focuses on so-called knowledge workers, those workers who are participating most effectively in the knowledge economy on the grounds that their competencies strongly reflect the emerging dynamic and technological changes and globalization. I will stop here, and if there's a question, I'll be happy to answer.
شكرا سيد كومار. الآن طبعا الآن مع الدكتور إسماعيل رضوان في الختام. الدكتور رضوان طبعا بما أنه هو كبير الاقتصاديين لدول مجلس التعاون الخليجي، راح يتكلم عن تطوير بيئة ونظم الأعمال وطبيعة الوظائف تقريبا في المنطقة. تفضل دكتور.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Dr. Nader. And first of all, my congratulations to His Excellency Dr. Khalid Mahdi and colleagues at the GSCPD for putting together this very important conference. And Dr. Nader, it's really a pleasure to meet you as well. I have the absolute pleasure of working with your son at the World Bank, who is really a delightful, very hardworking, super intelligent young man. And I just hope that all young Kuwaitis are like him, and then the future will be assured for a beautiful country. And it's a pleasure to share this platform with my colleagues, Dr. Cheng and Dr. Singh. So let me start by saying I think we've heard already that the whole world is moving away from manual to non-routine jobs, from routine jobs to non-routine analytical and non-routine interpersonal jobs. So this is where most of the jobs will be created. High-level critical thinking and analysis is needed, but also in terms of the interpersonal jobs. And I think Dr. Cheng characterized it as the care economy and other areas. So these are very much studied very well in the GCC, and all the GCC countries have very well developed vision statements of how to move to this globally competitive knowledge economy. So the STEM subjects, the science, technology, and mathematics, are absolutely key for this because they enable the students to become critical thinkers and have the tools to solve real-world problems. Now, where will the jobs be? I think they will be in three key areas: health, energy, and the environment. So why do I say those three, especially in the GCC? Well, health, obviously, we've seen the pandemic and the destruction that it made in terms of society, economics, and other areas. And I think this is an area where not just because of pandemics, but also, as Dr. Singh said, the demographic transitions, aging populations, and other areas. So this will be a key area going forward. The other two areas, I think, energy and environment, well, it's obvious why that's important for Kuwait and the GCC. So The world is moving to net zero. Kuwait has made a commitment to net zero by 2050. The other GCC countries have also either 2050 or 2060. So this energy transition is going ahead. We have one generation to be able to solve this area. And there will be a huge number of jobs created in this area of the transition to renewable and net zero energy. So renewable energy, green hydrogen, and all of the associated areas. So if you're a wind turbine engineer or a solar engineer, you will have a job for sure in the future. We forecast that the demand for these green economy skills will outstrip the supply for the foreseeable future. So that's, I think, some of the areas. Now, we are all living in a technology age, and we've seen the rise of these big global companies like Google, Facebook, Apple. You guys know them just as well as me. But we've also seen a lot of smaller companies that may not well be as well known. And these have gone from nothing to multi-billion-dollar valuations in a very short space of time. So this is where the growth is. This is where the jobs are, because the size of the market is limitless. Once you have a technological platform, you can reach anybody with an internet connection, which nowadays is almost anybody on the planet. So these are critical areas, right, to focus on, and this is where the jobs will come. So as Dr. Cheng said, Singaporeans are already preparing their youngsters for coding and being able to be tech savvy from a very, very early age. So as we said, as we've heard before from many speakers, Dr. Nader, Dr. Singh mentioned this, it's not all about the tech, it's also about the softer skills, critical thinking and leadership, negotiation, self-management. Those are super important. And I think while I was in Kuwait, I certainly heard the private sector complaining a lot about the youngsters not being ready in these particular areas. And I think the education system can focus more on those kind of topics. So in terms of, okay, so these are the skills and the jobs that we need, but they're built on a base, right? You can't just start with very high level critical thinking skills. You have to start with basic education. And I think here, in terms of the international scores, the PISA and the TIM scores, we see UAE doing the best, Bahrain and Qatar pretty good, but they're still below the average. It's certainly below the average for their income levels. And I think Kuwait, unfortunately, is lagging the rest of the GCC, despite spending a lot of money in terms of education. So something is going wrong in the education system. I think it's a number of different things, right? One of the things I see is that obedience is prized above creativity. So this emphasis on discipline and memorizing and passive learning, I think that's a tremendous challenge for the education system. And it makes sure that students are not really that interested. There's a lot of absenteeism in the students, but also in the teachers as well, especially in Kuwait. The other area, I think, is the public sector. You know, everybody in Kuwait and to a large extent the rest of the GCC wants to join the public sector. And I think this is part of the problem, is that a lot of people don't have role models of going, parents who've gone into the private sector, right? So more than 90% of Kuwaiti nationals work in the public sector. So it's very difficult for a youngster to have a role model, especially a female role model. And I think this is one of the key challenges for Kuwait as well. The good news is that Kuwait has the biggest gender gap in terms of education. Females are much, much better than males in terms of high school attainment, right? But what happens to them? They don't go on to university and study STEM subjects. So despite the fact that they're the vast majority of top students at high school, there's still a minority when they go on to university. And that's because I think the role of the family plays a big role in GCC and in the MENA region in general. And many of their parents are kind of persuading girls not to go into kind of the traditionally masculine areas. And I think many of these areas were in fact prohibited, oil engineers, these kind of things, they were not allowed to work in those sectors. So I think this is some areas that we really need to look at. The next thing I think is the extracurricular activities, right? So this is where people can get really excited about using technology when they're young, making sure that the classes are exciting, the textbooks are interactive. When I lived in Kuwait, I spent 2 years in Kuwait. My wife is AI guru, artificial intelligence, and she was working a lot in Europe. I said to her, well, why don't we do something in Kuwait? So she said, okay, I can do something. I would try and bring the AI Family Challenge to Kuwait. So she brought this and she taught families, especially with teenage children, AI techniques, and for a year. And she was so successful that the Kuwaiti family, the Al Muhammad Ali family, won the global competition for AI. So that shows you that Kuwait can compete on a global stage, and youngsters are super interested in AI and using technologies to solve their own problems. I think, but there was a lot of pushback, I can tell you. Someone said to her that what she was doing was illegal. Someone said to her that she shouldn't be partnering with KFAS, who provided the facility. So it's very, very difficult to get people in to support these new initiatives. People are very frightened of change. And I've heard these stories over and over again in Kuwait in terms of, for instance, the renewable energy stories. Kuwait's had fantastically successful pilot projects, but in terms of scaling up, very, very little has been done so far. So I think these are some of the things to work on in the future. The way that STEM subjects are perceived in Kuwait and in the broader GCC, these are the kind of critical things that we need to look at. So I think just to summarize, I think it's really important that the private sector takes the lead in this. The public sector has a role to play, especially in developing a meritocracy. And I think, the more we can develop a meritocracy, the more skills will be valued. If it's all about family connections, then people won't bother. And I think we can, certainly in Kuwait, we can aim much, much higher than we're aiming at the moment. 20% of boys don't finish high school, which I think is a tragedy given the amount of resources that Kuwait has. Everybody should not just be finishing high school, but all Kuwaitis should be finishing university as well. I mean, it's a very small population. You've got tremendously talented people there. I think we can aim much higher in terms of educational achievements. So let me end by saying I think it's a basket of 3 skills that we need to focus on. Behavioral skills that we've all talked about, the social, soft skills, the cognitive skills. These are super important: the logical, intuitive, creative thinking, verbal ability, numeracy, and finally the technical skills, the manual dexterity, the use of tools and techniques, and the job-specific skills like engineering, IT, and those kind of skills. Thank you very much. Back to you, Dr. Nader.
شكرا دكتور. طبعا في هذا المحور تحدثت الدكتورة دليم عن التنافس الشديد في أسواق العمل المعرفية، وأيضا ما هي المستقبل المهارات وما هي نوعية هذه المهارات. أيضا تكلمت عن علوم التحليل والاقتصاد الرقمي والصناعات التحويلية، وأيضا المهارات التكنولوجية المختلفة، وأيضا الحوافز التي تعطيها الحكومات للشركات. السيد كومار تكلم عن القدرة على استخدام المعلومات، التفكير النقدي، أهمية رأس المال البشري وأهمية المخرجات، وأيضا إقرار المعرفة بأنها هي المحرك الرئيسي لنجاح الاقتصاديات. وأيضا تكلم عن عوامل التغيير الأخرى التي تتطلب نفس الشروط مثل تغيير المناخ وأيضا الاتجاهات العالمية. وأيضا تكلم عن التعليم الرسمي بالمقارنة بالتدريب المتخصص، وأيضا تطرق إلى اختلاف تسميات المهارات من منطقة إلى أخرى مثل المهارات الناعمة والمهارات الشخصية. وفي نفس الوقت تكلم عنها الدكتور رضوان وسلط الضوء على تحول العالم من الوظائف الروتينية إلى الوظائف الغير روتينية، وأيضا طموحات دول مجلس التعاون الخليجي بتبني التحول الرقمي لبناء اقتصاديات معرفية مبنية أساساً على التطور والابتكار والإبداع، وأيضاً ما هي نوعية وظائف المستقبل والأعمال والمجالات. أيضاً تكلم عن تحضير بعض الدول مثل سنغافورة للمتطلبات المستقبلية، وأيضاً رأى لزاما أن دول مجلس التعاون الخليجي وبالأخص أتكلم عن الكويت بأن يجب التحضير ويجب أن نكون ندعم المبادرات الشبابية والمهارات والكفاءات الشبابية، ضرورة أن ندعمها، وأيضا خصوصا في المشاريع التكنولوجية واللي هي تطبيقات تكنولوجية، وأيضا مشاريع الطاقات المتجددة. طبعا هناك دور مهم للقطاع الخاص بالريادة بالأعمال، وأيضا تنمية المهارات، ليست هي فقط تنمية مهارات ولكن مهارات سلوكية اجتماعية إدراكية ومهارات تقنية كلها. هذا ملخص عن ما تطرق المتحدثون الثلاثة لها. الآن نأتي إلى دور الأسئلة الخاصة بالجلسة، وهذه الأسئلة جتني على النظام. وأيضا هناك سؤال أيضا بادروا فيه الإخوان في الجلسة السابقة وأنا سجلتها، هي ما هي المسميات الوظيفية المعرفية وكيف يمكن ربط هذه المسميات بالمهن والمؤسسات وأسواق المعرفة. هذا السؤال الأول أطرحه للأستاذ دكتور كومار سينغ. ممكن دكتور لم تجب على هذا السؤال اللي هو ما هي المسميات؟
This one is, thank you for the chance to speak, because if you Google Skills Future Singapore, you would see that there is a huge platform set up by the government of Singapore to tell you what are all the job competencies, technical ones that are related to individual jobs in different levels, as well as the soft skills, what we call critical core skills, because we don't want to call them soft. They're not soft, they're critical core skills like leadership, influence, digital fluency, collaboration, creative thinking, decision-making, etc. And then there's also advertised all the available jobs that are the training programs that are approved by the government for subsidy, up to 90% of a course fee. And the last 10% you can use your skills credit to pay for, and which institution offers them, because they've been in a way approved, and you'll know where to find the kind of training you need to upgrade yourself. Then there is a jobs bank to tell you what are all the jobs available that they can't fill and which you might want to explore. There are also counselors whom you can talk to if you are out of a job and you've been made redundant, and they'll tell you how do you beef up your CV and your skills to make sure that you're able to take on new jobs. There are also programs which are called professional conversion programs, where we take in people who are from one sector that's been made redundant, and they're put through a program to try and then give them the new skills so that companies would place them whilst they are undergoing training, so that when they finish training, they will get the jobs. This is a huge whole of government enterprise with a lot of money poured in. So I think it is worth the investment, rather than have an individual try and figure out how do I find the right place to upskill myself, and where do I find a job, and who's going to support me and give me counsel, who's going to subsidize my training. Yeah, so that's just a quick sharing. Thank you.
شكرا. السؤال الآخر موجه لدكتور رضوان. السؤال طبعا لأنك تكلمت عن ضرورة دعم المبادرات الشبابية في المشاريع المختلفة ودور القطاع الخاص بالريادة بالأعمال، وتطرقت إلى الحالة في دول مجلس التعاون. سؤال من شقين: ما هي الفرص المتوفرة حاليا؟ ماذا ينقصنا لصنع منظومة متكاملة لصناعة وخلق الأسواق المعرفية؟ وأيضا الشق الثاني: هل يجب أن نبحث على قادة التغيير أم قادة التغيير موجودين؟
Thank you very much for your question, Dr. Nader. Yes, I very much agree with you. We just certainly need champions of change at all levels in society, not just in the private sector, but also in the education sector as well. I think in terms of what I've seen in other countries that have worked very well is transformational programs that can take a few months. So you partner between the private sector and academia. So what the objective is to take graduates who may not be tech savvy and to turn them into tech graduates who are ready for the workforce. And so they may be in other scientific areas, and sometimes maybe not even in scientific areas, but with a numeracy background. And so certainly when I worked in Sri Lanka, they focused on this area. So the private sector will come in and give courses to the youngsters, and the courses will basically enable them to turn from whatever they were doing within a few months to going into the kind of the tech space. And why did the private sector do this? Because they had access to the best students. So they could identify the best students in the class, and they could then offer them jobs when they graduated from the course. And so very little money was spent on it from the government side. It was mostly all from the private side. And in getting the private sector in to actually teach the courses in coding or in problem solving, in engineering, made sure that the skills they were given were the skills that they needed in the private sector. So I think those things we can think about in terms of in Kuwait, how to turn many of our graduates into far more tailored to the private sector. And I think the last thing we need is to have role models, especially female role models. I know when my wife was in Kuwait, she was part of a team, I think Female Tech Makers, it was called, something like that in Kuwait. And I think empowering those kind of groups and empowering more females to get into this area, given the fact that they're so far advanced in terms of high school achievements, is absolutely going to be the key for the future. Thank you.
شكرا دكتور رضوان. الآن دقيقة لكل متحدث ليبدي وجهة نظر أو ما يعني كان قافية أو ناقص علينا في هذا المحور. تفضل يا دكتور ليم.
Thank you. In my conclusion, I want to answer a question that Dr. Nader asked, which I did not answer. It was about scientific knowledge, right? And the generation of scientific knowledge. I would actually say that our schools, our higher tertiary institutions could actually have collaborations with industry on the curriculum and also have incubators so that even at secondary school, polytechnics, vocational institutes, students are excited about what's happening in the real world. And this is where the private sector, like what Dr. Ridwan said, would be able to play a part to excite and to grow a new generation of youngsters who are more tech savvy, who are more industry savvy. But as a country, it'd be good also to have a national research agenda. Where is your key area of focus? Where is your need? For Singapore right now, it's food security, because we're not even self-sufficient. We'll be out of food if people don't supply us with food outside of Singapore. So agri-tech, food security, very important, right? So decide on what your own areas are, have your national agenda, bring in the sponsors, bring in the tertiary institutions, the research centers, as well as private sector collaboration. Thank you.
Mr. Kumar.
Thank you. I think by adopting knowledge economy as a focus, I think the Kuwait has taken a right step. What is required is to create a skill ecosystem where they have a robust labor market information system, which is functional and which is linked with the skills delivery. Second, that the private sector needs to play a very important role in the skills governance, it's the skills delivery, including the apprenticeship. The whole learning method needs a transformative change, more apprenticeship, more work-based learning, and lastly, that it has to have a very important quality assurance system, which can ensure that what a labor market demands, it is being supplied. Over.
شكرا. دكتور رضوان، كلمة أخيرة.
Thank you very much, Dr. Nadir. Let me just start by saying thank you very much to the organizers. It's been a real pleasure to be with you today. I think we've had an excellent discussion. I will just push one more idea for Kuwait. I think in Kuwait, you have the world's biggest SME fund. And this is a huge potential opportunity to really energize the private sector. So if you can focus on this fund and you can really push it towards venture capital, towards new technologies, towards all of the Kuwaiti ideas and really focusing on the youth, this is going to be a tremendous tool to really push forward in this area. Thank you very much.
شكرا دكتور. بذلك نصل إلى نهاية الجلسة الثانية وأيضا نهاية اليوم الأول من المؤتمر. الأخ عبد العزيز تفضل.
كل الشكر للدكتور نادر معرفي وأيضا الضيوف الكرماء في الجلسة الثانية بعنوان مستقبل الفرص الوظيفية ومهارات ضمن الأسواق المعرفية. وبكذي والآن وحضورنا الكريم وصلنا معكم لختام المنتدى في اليومه الأول. إن شاء الله استمتعتم معنا من خلال برنامج المنتدى المتنوع. نشكر جميع المتحدثين ونشكر المتحدثين الرئيسيين وأيضا الجميع اللي انضم لنا من خلال هذه الجلسة والجلسات النقاشية المتنوعة وأيضا الحضور الكريم من خلال متابعته معنا طوال هالثلاث ساعات. نلتقي معكم إن شاء الله في الغد في الساعة 10. كونوا على الموعد. مع السلامة.